What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. Two of the top 10 heavyweights in boxing throw hands tonight at Crypto.com Arena, Los Angeles, California. In one corner, you have former unified heavyweight champion Andy the Destroyer Ruiz, who yours truly officially called the Michelin Man, taking on the boogeyman of the division, perennial contender Luis King Kong Ortiz. This fight will be a WBC eliminator. The winner of this fight will be one step closer to fighting for the WBC strap. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, this fight will kick off a great month of boxing, as next Saturday, 6 days later, we'll have Claressa T-Rex Shield, who affectionately calls herself the GOAT, the greatest woman of all time, taking on her nemesis, the woman that gave her only defeat in the amateurs. Very controversial defeat, to say the least, because from what I seen in the video, Claressa was the aggressor, and Savannah Marshall was fighting off the back foot. Claressa Shield was fighting like a professional, and Savannah Marshall was fighting like an amateur. But she was able to get the victory. The point scoring system in amateur boxing leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. But you got to give credit where credit's due. She was able to get the victory. And now we're going to get these two titans, female titans, fighting on UK soil. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Quick caveat. Gloves Are Off, which is hosted by Johnny Nelson. Oh, Johnny. Here's Johnny. Oh, Johnny. I got a lot of things I can say about old Johnny, man, but Johnny does a great job for Sky Sports. You know, I think he's what you call the classic company man, former fighter, one of the biggest stars in recent memory when you talk about UK boxing. You know, you talk about Johnny Nelson, you talk about Nigel Benn, you know, you talk about Conor Benn Sr. Those are one of the biggest names that have fought at that level. You talking about UK domestic level fighting of the past. Those were three of the prominent names in UK boxing. With all that being said, go check out that Gloves Are Off. Great one-on-one trash talking by Claressa T-Rex Shields. Savannah Marshall, she may win this fight. We'll see what happens. We'll see what transpires. But she cannot win the verbal battle with Claressa T-Rex Shields, who is the best, by far, woman trash talker in boxing. And she's one of the best trash talkers in sports, in all of sports, in my opinion. She's a great self-promoter, got charisma, knows how to talk her ish, and knows how to get her point across. And she's trying to her best to get under Savannah Marshall's skin. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, a week later, we will have the trilogy, Canelo versus Triple G. The first fight, I thought Triple G won. The second fight, I had it a draw, but had no problem with Canelo Alvarez getting the nod because he landed the more damaging shots. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But as far as this fight goes between Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz, this fight is going to be determined in a large factor to speed versus timing. Andy Ruiz has the speed advantage, make no mistake about it. Despite what Luis Ortiz said in the lead up to this fight that he's just as fast as Andy Ruiz, that's a lie. He's not. But I think he's actually, what he's trying to get across to people is my timing is going to offset his speed. So his speed is not going to be an advantage because I'm going to time him. And I'm going to be able to offset that. I think that's actually what he means. Because if he really believes that he can match up with Andy Ruiz in the speed department, he's going to be in for a rude awakening tonight in Crypto.com Arena. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, a lot of people want to talk about Luis Ortiz's age, saying he's old man River. But the way he fights, age never comes into play because he does not waste punches. He throws punches that he believes that he's going to connect with those shots. He's not going to throw punches just to throw them. He's not with the smoke and mirrors. He's not going to be doing a lot of feinting and a lot of, setting traps per se, like Alexander Usyk does. He does a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of feinting, a lot of footwork, moving in and out, moving side to side, you know, making it look like he's going to jump in, but he actually stand on the outside, that type of stuff. He's not going to be doing a lot of that. He's going to be sticking that jab on Andy Ruiz. He's going to be looking to set up the left hand out of the southpaw stance. And that inhibits him to go over a 12-round fight without tiring. Now, a lot of people say, well, he tired in that Wilder fight. And even if he does get tired, he has a great poker face because he never puts out there for his opponent that he's tired. He might be tired, but he's not letting his opponent know he's tired. He got that great poker face. With all that being said, he's a guy that's not going to waste his punches. He's not going to exert extra energy. He's going to fight at his pace. It's up to Andy Ruiz to get him out of that pace. It's up to Andy Ruiz to speed up that pace and make him fight at a breakneck pace. If he's able to do that, then you could see stamina coming into play in the second half of that fight. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, I have an update on the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. negotiations. Now, I said in a previous video that if the fight is not made by Labor Day weekend, it's not going to happen. Now, I revised that, and I said, well, look, if the fight doesn't happen by Labor Day weekend, I believe if that's the case, the fight has a 25% chance of happening. Now, we're at Labor Day weekend. It's Sunday. Monday is Labor Day. So we're a couple of days away from being out of Labor Day weekend. So we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. But I did a little digging. I got my shovel. I did a little digging, and this is where we at as far as Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. Now, I've stated this numerous times. Errol Spence Jr. has agreed to terms. The problem is with Terrence Crawford and the PBC. In particular, the guarantee. Now, from what I heard, the PBC has revised their guarantee to Terrence Crawford. Translation, they've upped the offer on the guarantee. The previous offer was not up to snuff according to Terrence Crawford, but the revised offer that the PBC has presented to Terrence Crawford, he has not accepted. And the PBC has said this is their last offer. They're not going to go up no more on this offer. They've given him a revised offer, and they're not going up any more. So basically, it's up to Bud Crawford to accept the offer. Now, Bud Crawford came out here and said that, look, he don't need the Errol Spence Jr. fight. He's in the Hall of Fame with or without Errol Spence Jr. He's satisfied with his career. He's making more money outside of boxing than he does in the boxing ring. That's what Terrence Crawford said. He said he don't need to fight with Errol Spence Jr. So he basically is in a stand contest with the PBC, and it's going to basically boil down to who blinked first. The thing about that is the PBC has options for Errol Spence Jr. You know, they got other welterweight contenders that they could put on with Errol Spence Jr. for November 19th. Now, November 19th is a date that's been widely discussed. A lot of people saying that, oh, man, with these negotiations dragging out, the fight's not going to happen on November 19th. I'm here to tell you in this video that Errol Spence Jr. is fighting on November 19th, hopefully against Terrence Crawford, but Terrence Crawford must accept the revised offer, the revised guarantee by the PBC. If he doesn't, as you've seen in these reports, the clock is ticking, and the PBC is prepared to go in another direction. So it'll be up to Errol Spence Jr. to decide if he wants to stay at 147 or go up to 154. He has much more appealing options at 147. He can fight Keith one-time Thurman. That's a fight that's been discussed for a long time now. When Keith Thurman was sitting at the top of the food chain, that fight was widely discussed. Due to injuries and inactivity, that fight never came to fruition, so they can finally get that fight off. That kind of be the last piece of the puzzle of the PBC welterweights of the last, 7 to 8 years. You had Thurman versus Porter. You had Thurman versus Garcia. You had Spence versus Porter. You had Spence versus Garcia. So the last piece of the puzzle is Spence versus Thurman when you're talking about the PBC welterweights. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, my opinion is if he stays at 147, that he probably will end up fighting the Matias Stoyanis. That's the regular WBA welterweight champion, because Errol Spence Jr. has said that he ain't fighting Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman had the opportunity to fight him several years back. Keith Thurman didn't want no smoke, and he's not going to afford him that luxury, afford him that opportunity that he denied him several years ago. Now, we will see what happens. We will see what transpires. Now, I will say this. If Errol Spence Jr. does end up fighting Keith Thurman, you got a lot of people out here saying that Al Haymon run everything, that the fighters have no say. And if Errol Spence Jr. does end up fighting Keith Thurman, that's going to give those people that think like that and say those type of things a lot of bullets to shoot at people. A lot of bullets to shoot at people. Say, see. Errol Spence Jr. said he would never fight Keith Thurman. Look, now he going to fight Keith Thurman. Al Haymon made him fight Keith Thurman. Al Haymon called a lot of shots. Them dudes can't do anything without Al Haymon. They could call out all these fighters, but if Al Haymon don't want it to happen, it ain't going to happen. That type of stuff. So it's going to be very, very interesting, man. I know that's the biggest money fight in the welterweight division for Errol Spence Jr. outside of Terrence Crawford, but, Errol Spence Jr. said he ain't fighting him ever. So for him to turn around and fight him again, that will give those people that says Al Haymon is running the whole show over there in the PBC, that would give them a lot of ammunition to shoot at these PBC fanboys. So we will see what happens. And we will see what transpires. But that's the latest and the greatest on the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. news. And I will say this. I said Labor Day weekend, if the fight don't happen, there's a 25% chance. And I do believe that the chances have dropped dramatically that this fight has not been announced during Labor Day weekend. But I'd still hold out hope that we got a 2-week period. This is for sure. This is a true deadline. We got a 2-week period. If we don't hear this fight announced in this next 2-week window, the fight's not happening. Ain't no 25% chance or whatever the case may be. It's 0% chance if this fight don't get announced in the next 2 weeks. Because Errol Spence Jr. is fighting on November the 19th. The next 2 weeks will take that fight in that date in an 8-week window. And that'll be time for him to get in the training camp and really start preparing. Now, Errol Spence Jr. has basically been keeping himself in great shape. And he's been basically staying in the gym. But for him to start his official training, his official camp for his next fight, November 19th, this fight will have to be announced in this next 2 weeks. If not the fight with Terrence Crawford, the fight with the next option, Plan B. And that would be, in my opinion, Amantis Stellionis or Keith One-Time Thurman if he stays at 147. If he moves up to 154, you look at the undisputed junior middleweight champion, Jermell Lyons Only Charlo. He has a fight in January versus Tim Tszyu. So he will not be able to fight for a belt in his first fight at 154. So he would probably have to take on a junior middleweight contender. So that would be a fight that would be high risk, low reward. He could take on a Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison is a very good boxer, has underrated power. Now he has a suspect chin, so you would think that Errol Spence Jr. probably would catch up with him over a 12-round fight because one thing about Tony Harrison, he has a hard time staying focused over a 12-round fight. If he's able to do that, he's problems for anybody. But that would be a high risk, low reward fight for Errol Spence Jr. Then you have Brian Castano. Brian Castano is a guy that put on a good performance versus Jermell Charlo, especially in the first fight. I actually thought he won that first fight. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm from H-Town. I'm a Jermell Charlo fan, but I thought Brian Castano won that first fight. Second fight, Jermell Charlo was able to get the decisive win. He was able to stop Brian Castano in the second half of that fight, which enabled him to become the undisputed junior middleweight champion. So those two fighters, Jermell Charlo and Tim Tszyu, being locked into a January fight, that will keep Errol Spence Jr., if he does move to 154, for fighting for a belt in his first fight at the junior middleweight division. So he could fight Brian Castano. But that's another fight, high risk, low reward. You beat him, which I believe Errol Spence would do. I think Errol Spence's jab would be very, very prevalent in that fight. I think he would be able to keep Brian Castano at bay with the jab. And once Brian Castano attempts to get close, I think he could tame him with the left hand. And I think he would actually box circles around the aggressive come-forward style of Brian Castano. But again, Brian Castano going to make you work for it. There ain't going to be no easy day at the office. He's going to make you work for it. He's going to make you earn it. And that would be a fight, again, that would fall under the category of high risk, low reward. So he's got options, man. I think he's got better options at 147, but he does have options not only at 147, but 154. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.